John Lennon. Living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see. The last of human freedoms. It is good to be back. Even with a cold, it is good to be back. Good to be back with you, good to be back in this pulpit. My time away has been filled with love. I felt a deep love when I picked up my grandson. I felt the love in the room in my meetings with you, those who are upholding the work of our church. I love you. We love you. I felt love when I officiated at the wedding of Shirley's sister, a Buddhist-style ceremony held in Grand Teton National Park. Jackson Hole is lovely. Talk about love. And I felt love at the General Assembly in Portland, an oozing spirit of love and life. And consideration flowed through it. On one of those GA mornings, we learned that the American Care Act is legal. And on the next day, when many Unitarian and Universalist eyes were glued to CNN in our breakfast room, we were told gay marriage can be performed in 50 states. Yeah. There were hugs, whoops of joy, cries of, oh my God, at last. And one of those who was there said, we played a part in this. We played a part. Yes, it is good to be back. Our topic on this 4th of July Freedom Weekend is freedom. And I have heard arguments when the question is asked, what is freedom? It appears that justice for all does not apply in Charleston, South Carolina. There were immediate calls in that city to take down the Confederate flag. While some said, we like our flag, it is for states' rights and its heritage, not hate. Others said, no, it represents slavery, promotes the new Jim Crow. And we want you to know too many are mistreated or jailed, sentenced to death, and even shot in the street. And so in a time when my heart has been filling up with love, we all know that many are sad, many facing trials, many caught in a fix for which they can see no way out. As I heard Cornel West say at General Assembly, African Americans live with the blues. It's our life, the blues. Now, one of the interesting things about freedom is that we cannot determine freedom for others. Their views are their views. They can do what they want, say what they want, hold ideas that even seem disconcerting to some of us. What we can do, though, is to use the freedom we have more wisely. Viktor Frankl, a neurologist, psychiatrist, Holocaust survivor, and the author of Man's Search for Meaning, addressed this as the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Choose one's own way. How do we choose? How do we choose our attitudes? We may look to religion, and it has some answers. And I like the Pope's statement of climate change. Too bad it took about 2,000 years to get there. But I like the statement. And politics has other answers. And I am heartened by the recent progressive Supreme Court decisions. But I know that many dislike the church's proposals, mandates, commandments. We shiver at the destruction of our planet, the runaway wealth of 1%, the ongoing nature of bigotry, racism, mass incarceration. With all of that going on, and there's much more that can be listed in just a few moments. With all of this, how do we choose our own way? Since the choice is ours, we seek advice wherever it may be found. Revelation is not sealed, we say as Unitarian Universalists. We aspire to truth as wide as the world. We look to find truth anywhere. Universally. This is our pamphlet on frequently asked questions for Unitarian Universalists. Revelation is not sealed. I see a link between Viktor Frankl and Don Miguel Ruiz. The Toltec author of the Four Agreements, Practical Guide to Personal Freedom. That's what drew me to this book when I was looking at freedom. Its pages contain answers for those who engage in pursuing Frankl's last freedom, choosing our own way. All of us have problems. All of us have struggled with at least a few of our decisions. I know that in the course of my life I've made some bad decisions. More than I want you to know, actually. And I wouldn't doubt that some of you have made a bad decision or two somewhere along the line. Human self-doubt is common. Frankl and Don Miguel agree on this. But the Toltecs said there is a way that we can address our self-doubt. There is a way that we can come at choosing our own way through life. There are four agreements, he said. 1, be impeccable with your word. 2, don't take anything personally. 3, don't make assumptions. And 4, always do your best. Let's examine these agreements. First, be impeccable with your word. He says, speak with integrity. Guard against lying to yourself is what it really goes to. When you are truthful to you, then and only then can you be truthful to others. Don't fool yourself. Now, when I first read this, I thought back to my high school and college days. And I thought of my friends who had exciting stories about things that they were doing. And I liked some of those stories so well that since I didn't have anything interesting going on in my life, I made up a few stories. And then some of those stories sounded so good, I chose to repeat telling them. What I'm saying is that the made-up stories became as good as the truth. Ruiz is an advocate for finding the inner lies and letting them go. This is how our words become impeccable. Don't repeat any of those old stories. Don't fool yourself. Don't try to fool those with whom you live. Ruiz values words. He says the words we choose embody the power of our creative, life-changing, capacity. He backs this up in words with the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word is God. The Word is God. The suggestion here is that we have holy words buried within us. And this first agreement asks us to find those holy, godly words and use them. Use them and only them. Be impeccable with your words. Second, don't take anything personally. Did you ever notice that everybody is not watching you? That was a shock to me. My sense of self, where Ruiz talks about the big judge inside of me, thought everybody was looking at me. Thought they saw all my little mistakes, that they were running some sort of tab on me, as if everybody out there was God looking at me. I don't know if that has happened to anyone else, but Ruiz suggests that that's fairly common. He reminds us very gently that everyone else is doing exactly what we are doing. If anyone says anything that bothers you, he goes on to say, it is most likely a representation of their self-image issues. It's their stuff. It's not about you. It's about their words. Avoid the heartache you can take on if you listen to those words. Avoid making a God out of somebody else. Deal with your own issues. Allow your inner spirit to lead you. Truly use the precious gift of life, the spirit of life within. Don't take anything personally. Third, don't make assumptions. Here too, I need this reminder every once in a while. I have noted it is possible to make assumptions that lead directly to a pile of poo. And since a pile of poo is not a good place to be, we are invited to ask questions. Ask and listen. And let the answers you hear be your guide. On the positive side, you will find ask, listen, and follow in a practical guide to personal freedom, intermingled with don't make assumptions. On the negative side, avoid old habits. The old routines were a distraction. They are still a distraction if you allow them to be so. Ruiz sees our inner word as holy. During the course of our life, this inspirited word has become, is becoming, and will become that of God within us. And this means we can locate this holy self, and we can ask it questions. We can engage with that is most precious within us. And if the Spirit moves us as we are listening to it, it may ask us to change, to drop old habits and rituals, to cultivate a new course of action. And once we start to take a new action, and when we continue to follow a new course, we will set a new path for a better, improved life. Taking the action over and over again strengthens your will, nurtures the seed, and establishes a solid foundation for the new habit to grow. All of this comes out of don't make assumptions. And fourth, always do your best. One of our adult religious education classes here read the Four Agreements several years ago. There were a number of messages on this book as well. And it just so happened that this was done a year before our members and friends drafted our covenant of right relationship, a covenant you can find on the wall in the atrium. The words in that covenant represent, in fact, they are the best of our intentions. Doing your best always has to be visualized in the light of our varying circumstances of life. Personally, we have different parents, siblings perhaps, friends, employment, hobbies, meetings, causes, and into these many different life situations, and we heard some of it a few minutes ago. A new situation, a new trial, or a new shift could appear at any moment. The seasons, the moons, the weather, the employer, the partner, our parents, our children are all potential instigators for change. Things do change. They will change. They will never stop changing. We are called to do our best because the way of life we hope for is right here. It is all for our taking. Here are a few highlights. Let the self-doubt go. Forget the self-judgments. Fail to recognize any self-abuse you may have once inflicted upon yourself. Let it go. Slowly, over time, and it takes time, come to know who you are. Who you are. And then recognize that we are worthy. That all are worthy. When Jesus, song goes, Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. We have to stop and think that that means you too. Every one of them. All are worthy of love. And all are worthy of loving. These are the steps, the foundation on which to build a life where you can and will always do your best. These are the steps to personal freedom. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. That leads to another question when we look at it here. How do these four agreements relate to the Golden Rule? It seems to me that Unitarian Universalists here do unto others as you would have them do unto you as a call to action. As Reverend Nathan Walker wrote, to know true freedom is to know that your win is my glory and that your suffering is inextricably tied to my own. So I see a last freedom that is beyond Frankel's last freedom. A next step, the freedom to love others as we want to be loved. If there is any distinguishing feature about our faith, it is that our religious community has been moved to social action, civic engagement, community ministry. It's what we do. A public interest research poll that just came out says 74% of Unitarian Universalists strongly favor same-sex marriage. Just may be true that 74% of us help to shape a new perspective on gay marriage in this country. At our recent UU ministers meeting, the Reverend Rob Hardy said, "I consider it a great privilege to be serving in our ministry while we have helped to lead this historic fight for human dignity." But he quickly added, and I didn't get the exact quote, "Will we be able to do the same thing for Black Lives Matter as we did for a GLBTQ community?" This is the meaning of the call to love. We love everybody as we wish to be loved. This is an important query because we all know that African Americans have lost their lives in Ferguson, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Charleston, and other places. We also know that there are many communities, neighborhoods in our communities where early death is considered normal. We are aware that voting rights are being restricted. We know that 4, maybe 7 black churches have been set on fire. And we know that they need help. There are many steps we could take to support these brothers and sisters in those churches and those who are their brothers and sisters in faith for the amount of melatonin in their skin. I joined a local march on Saturday. It went to Lee Circle. Other such opportunities may be happening and happening soon. If you are interested in this type of social action, please let me know. Yet, I also know that I can feel in my heart the pain of the members of those churches that no longer have a place to worship. Many of us here know that feeling. We're from New Orleans, Louisiana. We have been there too. We will be taking up an offering for the Rebuilding the Churches Fund in a few moments. Are you willing and able to help them? This is what it takes to extend the call of love, to be willing and able to help when help is needed. May the love of your hearts find love in the hearts of those around you. Namaste. The proceeds from today's collection will go to a Rebuild the Churches Fund being managed by Christ Church Cathedral Episcopal in St. Louis. Many other UU churches are also contributing to this fund. I'm going to ask you to take those and just sit down for a minute, if you would. I have a prayer that I'd like to share first. First row is a good place. Alan, you want to sit down for just a minute? This is a prayer for Ferguson written by Reverend Christian Smith. Spirit of life and love, be with us in this time as people suffer, as parents grieve, as violence rages. Be with us who feel the pain of loss, who feel anger and injustice. Stand with the oppressed. Change the heart of the oppressor, knowing that both are joined in their humanity, no matter how often we forget it. Remind us of the hope we have, and will have, a joy in the midst of sadness, success in the midst of challenge, of good things in the midst of bad. Help us to be better people, to work for better things, and to create a better world.